My 16-year-old son burned his arm on a grill preparing food for my sister's backyard party. His other arm is fine, my mother said, and made him keep cooking for 30 guests. I took the tongs from his hand and said, "Nobody eats from my child's pain." Then I took one picture of his burned arm beside the tray of food. By morning, my sister's party photos were gone, but the screenshot was everywhere. The blister was the size of a quarter, raised and wet and sitting on the inside of my son's left forearm where the grill grate had pressed against his skin when the tray slipped. I saw it from the patio gate, 30 feet away. A mother does not need proximity to identify a burn on her child's body. A mother needs 1 second and 1 angle, and the specific way a 16-year-old holds his arm away from his body when the skin is broken and the heat is still in it, and Shay was holding his left arm away from his body with his right hand wrapped around a pair of tongs and his face set in the expression of a boy who has been told to keep working and has not been given permission to stop. He was standing behind a charcoal grill in my sister's backyard cooking chicken thighs and corn on the cob for 30 guests at a Saturday afternoon party that I had not been asked to cater, had not been asked to attend until 3 hours ago, and had not known my son was working at until I walked through the gate and saw him standing over a grill with a burn on his arm and no glove on. His hand and no apron on his body, and no adult within 10 feet who was watching the fire or the boy or the blister that was forming on his skin. While 30 people ate potato salad at folding tables and laughed at something someone said about the weather. My mother was sitting in a lawn chair 6 feet from the grill. Etta Collier, 63 years old, a woman who has spent 35 years administering her family the way a receptionist administers a waiting room. Everyone sits where she says, everyone waits as long as she decides, and anyone who questions the seating chart is told they are being difficult. She had a paper plate on her lap and a piece of chicken on the plate and a glass of sweet tea in her hand, and she was eating food that my son had cooked while my son's arm was blistering 6 feet away from her chair. I walked to the grill. Shay saw me first. His eyes went to his arm, then to me, then back to the grill. The sequence of a boy who knows his mother is about to see something he has been hiding and whose first instinct is to cover the evidence with activity. "Shay, let me see your arm." He held it out. The burn was on the inner forearm, 3 inches above the wrist, a second-degree contact burn, the kind that happens when bare skin meets a hot grate at 400 degrees for 2 seconds. The blister was raised and tight, and the skin around it was red and already starting to swell, and I knew what this burn looked like, because I work in a hotel kitchen, where burns happen monthly, and every one of them is treated immediately with cold water and burn gel and a trip to the first aid station, not with a tong in the other hand and 30 guests waiting for their second helping. When did this happen? About 20 minutes ago. The tray slipped. Who treated it? Nobody. Grandma said my other arm is fine. The sentence landed on me the way a grill grate lands on skin, fast, hot, and leaving a mark that does not go away when you stop touching it. I looked at Etta. She was watching from the lawn chair with the expression of a woman who has heard her grandson report what she said and is not embarrassed by it because she does not believe the sentence was wrong. "His other arm is fine, Tierney. He has been doing a great job. The chicken is perfect. He just needs to be more careful. He needs to be more careful. He is 16 years old. He is working a 400-degree grill with no gloves, no apron, no supervision, and a second-degree burn on his arm, and your solution is that he should be more careful. Do not make a scene at your sister's party. My son has a burn that needs medical attention and you told him to keep cooking. It is a small burn. Children get burns. I got burns in my kitchen every week and nobody called an ambulance. I turned back to Shay. I took the tongs from his hand. Not grabbed. Took. the way a professional takes a tool from someone who should not be holding it, with the authority of a woman who manages grill stations for 200 guests and knows that a 16-year-old with a contact burn and no protective equipment should not be operating a 400-degree surface for 30 people while his grandmother eats chicken and calls it fine. Nobody eats from my child's pain. I said it to Etta. I said it to the backyard. I said it to the 30 guests who were now watching from their folding tables with forks in their hands and plates on their laps, and the quiet attention of people who have just realized that the food on their plates was cooked by a boy with a burn. I set the tongs on the grill's side shelf. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. I held Shay's burned arm next to the tray of chicken and corn he had been serving, the arm and the food side by side, the blister wet and red and the chicken golden and arranged, and I took one photograph. The image showed the burn on the left side of the frame and the food on the right, and the distance between the two was 6 inches. And the story the image told was the story of a family that valued the food more than the boy who cooked it. I put my phone in my pocket. I put my arm around Shay, and I walked him out of the backyard, through the gate, past the folding tables, past the 30 guests, past Etta in her lawn chair, past my sister Adler, who was coming out of the kitchen with a tray of lemonade and whose face shifted from hostess smile to something colder when she saw the tongs on the shelf and her nephew walking away and her sister's face carrying the expression that comes before the phone call. That changes the story of a Saturday afternoon. Welcome to Betrayal Unfolded, where the person who takes the tongs is the person who holds the truth. If your family has ever fed 30 people from your child's pain and called it helping, subscribe now. Because one photograph is about to end the party your sister is still posting about. My name is Tierney Collier. I am 35 years old. I am the catering operations manager at the Ridgewater Hotel in Sacramento, California. I coordinate banquets, receptions, corporate dinners, and wedding buffets for groups of 50 to 250 guests. I manage a kitchen staff of 12, a service team of 8, and a safety protocol that includes heat-resistant gloves, fire-resistant aprons, exhaust hoods, first aid stations, and a burn response kit that is mounted on the wall within arm's reach of every grill station in my kitchen. When one of my cooks gets burned, the protocol takes 60 seconds. Cold water, burn gel, assessment, documentation, and if necessary, a trip to urgent care on the hotel's insurance. The protocol does not include the phrase "his other arm is fine." My sister Adler is 32. She works as an office administrator for a dental practice. She lives in a 3-bedroom house in Arden Arcade that she bought 2 years ago with a down payment that came from our mother and a mortgage that she manages on a salary of $44,000 a year, which does not comfortably cover a 3-bedroom mortgage in Sacramento, which is why certain expenses in Adler's household are quietly funded by someone else. That someone else is me. For 3 years, I have been sending Etta $500 a month as a household contribution that Etta told me was for family expenses and maintenance on the house I grew up in. I believed her because I trusted her the way a daughter trusts a mother who asks for help, automatically and without auditing the books. 3 years, $18,000. And last month, when I finally looked at the transaction records, the $500 was not going to Etta's house. It was going to Adler's mortgage payment. My mother had been routing my money to my sister's mortgage for 3 years, and neither of them had told me because telling me would have required admitting that the daughter they bypassed for the grill was the daughter who kept the house standing. I have also been catering Adler's events for free. 4 years of birthday parties, holiday dinners, 1 promotion celebration, and a baby shower for Adler's friend that Adler hosted at her house, but that I staffed and supplied because you have access to the hotel kitchen, Tierney, and it would be so much easier. Easier, the word my family uses for the labor I provide. as if easier means free and free means invisible, and invisible means the person providing it does not need to be thanked or compensated or even acknowledged at the table where the food arrives. 4 years, 14 events, supplies, labor, and transportation valued at $18,400, calculated at the rate I would have charged a hotel client for the same service. I calculated the number Monday morning at my desk at the Ridgewater with the invoice template open and the event dates listed from memory, because a caterer remembers every event the way a musician remembers every performance, by the menu, the head count, and the thing that went wrong. In 4 years, nothing went wrong at Adler's events. The food was perfect, the setup was clean, the guests were fed, and the woman who made it happen was not in a single photograph, because the woman who makes it happen is the sister with the tongs, not the sister with the Instagram. This weekend, when I told Adler I could not cater her Saturday party because I had a hotel event Friday night that would keep me at work until midnight, Adler did not say I understand. She did not say I will hire someone. She did not say thank you for 4 years of free catering and I will manage this one on my own. She called my 16-year-old son directly, on his cell phone, without telling me, and asked him to come early to help with the grill. She told him it would be fun and that Grandma will be right there if you need anything. Grandma was right there, 6 feet away, with a plate of chicken and a lawn chair, and the sentence, his other arm is fine. Shay said yes, because Shay is 16 and wants to be useful and loves his aunt and does not know the difference between an aunt who asks for help and an aunt who asks for labor. Because the difference is invisible at 16 and only becomes visible when the grill catches your arm and the grandmother sitting 6 feet away tells you to keep cooking and the aunt is inside arranging mason jars for. A photograph that will not include you. I drove Shay to the emergency room at Mercy General. The burn was a second-degree thermal contact burn, treated with cold water irrigation, silver sulfadiazine cream, and a sterile dressing. The ER physician said the burn would heal in 2 to 3 weeks with proper care and no infection. The copay was $1,400 out of my insurance. The physician asked how it happened. I told him my son was operating a charcoal grill at a party without protective equipment or adult supervision. The physician paused, looked at Shay, looked at me, and said he should not have been operating that grill without at minimum a heat glove and an apron. At his age, unsupervised operation of an open-flame cooking surface is a supervision concern. He documented the burn in the medical record with the notation unsupervised minor. I sat in the ER waiting room while Shay was being treated and opened my phone. The photograph was in my camera roll. Shay's burned arm, the tray of food, 6 inches of distance between pain and presentation. The image did not need a filter or a caption or an angle. The image was the angle. The burn was the caption. And the tray of golden chicken beside it was the filter that every guest at the party had been looking through all afternoon. The filter that made the food visible and the boy invisible. I opened the family group chat, the one with Etta, Adler, 2 cousins, an aunt, and Uncle Davis. 14 members. I typed one line beneath the photo, "This is what your party cost my son." I almost did not press send. The photo was on my screen, and my thumb was on the button, and the daughter in me, the part that has been trained since birth to absorb and accommodate and protect the family's appearance at the cost of my own child's skin, hesitated. The hesitation lasted 2 seconds. Then I looked at the ER intake form on the clipboard next to me, where the words unsupervised minor and thermal contact burn were written in a physician's handwriting, and the form was more honest than anything the family group chat had ever produced, and the honesty gave my thumb permission. I pressed send. The photo arrived in the group chat at 4:47 p.m. The read receipts appeared one by one, each one a small gray checkmark that turned blue. each blue checkmark a family member opening the image and seeing what the party looked like from the other side of the grill. By 4:52, 3 family members had screenshotted it. By 5:15, one cousin had forwarded it to her own extended family chat with the caption, "Did you know about this?" By 5:40, the cousin who worked at Adler's dental practice had shown it to 2 coworkers during the evening shift. By 6:30, the screenshot was in the dental office group chat, and the office manager had seen it, and the office manager's expression was the expression of a woman who manages a professional practice and understands that the phrase "his other arm is fine" is not a medical assessment but a liability. By 8 p.m., the photo was in the Sacramento Arden neighborhood Facebook group, posted by a neighbor of Adler's who had been at the party and who had eaten the chicken and who had gone home and seen the burn photo in a forwarded text and had put the food on her plate and the burn on the boy's arm together in her mind and had felt the need to say what she felt in a place where other people could read it. She wrote, "I was at this party. I ate the food. I did not know a child cooked it while injured. I am sharing this because 30 adults were present, and not one of us checked on the boy at the grill." The post received 47 comments in 3 days. Adler had posted 14 photos from the party on her Instagram between 3:00 and 4:30 p.m. Beautiful backyard lit with string lights she had bought from Target and hung the night before. Folding tables with checkered tablecloths. Trays of food arranged on a buffet line that Adler had set up using a layout diagram I had sketched for her last year because she does not know how to arrange a buffet, and I do because it is my profession. Guests laughing with drinks in their hands. Lemonade in mason jars with sprigs of rosemary that I had taught Adler to garnish with at her birthday party 2 years ago. 14 photos of a party that looked effortless, that looked like the work of a woman who knows how to host, that looked like everything Adler wanted the world to see. Not one photo showed the boy at the grill. Not one photo showed the tongs in his hand, or the burn on his arm, or the grandmother sitting 6 feet away eating food her grandson cooked while his skin blistered beneath a layer of char smoke, and the quiet confidence of a family that does not look at what it uses. The 14 photos told the story of a perfect party. The one photo I sent told the story of what the perfect party cost. By midnight, all 14 Instagram posts were deleted. Adler's account went private. Her bio, which had read "hosting is my love language," was changed to blank. The curated image of a woman who hosts beautiful parties was now a blank page with a locked account, and the blank page was the most honest thing Adler's Instagram had ever displayed. The screenshot of the burn photo remained in every chat, every inbox, every Facebook comment thread where it had landed, because screenshots do not have a delete button that the subject can reach, and the story the screenshot told was the story that Adler's 14 photos had been designed to hide. A 16-year-old boy cooked the food, and the food was beautiful, and the boy was burned. And the family chose to photograph the food. Welcome back to Betrayal Unfolded. If you were the parent whose child was used as free labor and burned for it, while the hostess posted photos of the food and not the boy, hit subscribe. Because the 14 photos are gone, and the one photo is everywhere, and the party is about to get very expensive. I almost called Adler that night. The number was in my phone, and the photo was in the group chat, and the ER discharge papers were on my kitchen table next to the silver sulfadiazine cream and the extra sterile dressing the nurse had given me. But Shay's arm stopped me. He was on the couch with his forearm wrapped in white gauze and his eyes closed, and the remote on his chest, and the television playing a show he was not watching. And the gauze was white, and the burn underneath was red, and the boy underneath the burn was 16, and had spent his Saturday afternoon cooking for 30 people who did not know his name, and a grandmother who knew his name and did not care that his arm was on fire. Calling Adler would have been for me. Sitting with Shay was for him. And the photo was already doing the work the phone call would have done, except the photo worked in every room at once and the phone call would have worked in only one. That night, I made 3 moves. First, I filed a report with Sacramento County Child Protective Services. The report described a 16-year-old operating an open-flame charcoal grill at a private event without protective equipment, adult supervision at the cooking station, or appropriate response to a thermal burn injury. The adult present at the time of injury, Etta Collier, had instructed the minor to continue cooking after the burn occurred. The report was logged, and a caseworker would follow up within 10 business days. Second, I opened my banking app and canceled the $500 monthly auto pay to Etta's account. The household contribution that had been funding Adler's mortgage for 3 years stopped at 11:14 p.m. on a Saturday night, which meant the next mortgage payment on the house where the party happened would be short by $500. And the shortage would be Adler's problem and Etta's explanation, and neither of them would be able to answer the question, where did the money go, without saying Tierney stopped paying. And saying Tierney stopped paying would require admitting that Tierney had been paying, which would require admitting that the daughter they bypassed for the grill was the daughter who kept the lights on. Third, I drafted a formal demand letter to Adler for $1,400 in emergency room expenses. The letter itemized the ER visit, the treatment, the medication, and the follow-up appointment. The letter stated that the injury occurred at an event hosted by Adler Collier during an activity arranged by Adler Collier involving a minor who was not provided with appropriate safety equipment or supervision. The letter gave Adler 30 days to respond. The letter was printed on plain paper because I do not have a lawyer's letterhead, but the numbers on the paper were the same numbers a lawyer would have written, and the numbers do not care whose name is at the top. I almost stopped after the 3 moves. The CPS report was filed. The payments were canceled. The demand letter was drafted. The photo was in every chat in Sacramento. But the tongs stopped me. They were on the kitchen counter where I had set them after we got home from the ER. Stainless steel. Hotel grade. The same tongs I bring to every family event because I am a catering professional, and I bring my own tools the way a carpenter brings a hammer and a surgeon brings a headlamp. The tongs had been in Shay's hand when I took them, and the taking was the moment when the party stopped being a party and started being evidence, and the tongs that had served hotel guests for 3 years were now the tongs that had been in a burned boy's hand at a family barbecue. And the tongs deserved better, and the boy deserved better, and the woman who owned both was going to make sure both got better. Sunday morning. Adler's house. Arden Arcade. I did not call ahead. Calling ahead gives people time to assemble their excuses the way a hostess assembles a buffet, arranged, garnished, and presented in the best light. I wanted the kitchen before the garnish. I wanted the version of the conversation that happens when the door opens and the woman on the other side has not had time to decide which version of herself to perform. I drove with the demand letter on the passenger seat and the tongs in my bag. The same tongs I had taken from Shay's hand. I had cleaned them last night, the way I clean tools after every shift, with hot water and sanitizer and the automatic discipline of a woman who respects the equipment even when the equipment has been in the wrong hands. The tongs were clean, the situation was not, and the woman driving to her sister's house on a Sunday morning with a demand letter and a pair of tongs was not the sister who catered 14 events for free. She was the mother whose son's arm was wrapped in gauze because the free catering had run out, and the replacement was a 16-year-old boy with no gloves and a grandmother who could not tell the difference between a volunteer and a victim. Adler opened the front door in pajamas. Behind her, the living room still had party debris, folded tablecloths stacked on the couch, mason jars in the sink. A trash bag half full of paper plates and napkins with grease stains that looked like the fingerprints of 30 guests who had eaten food cooked by a boy whose arm was now bandaged 4 miles away. The party was over. The cleanup was not. and the woman standing at the door with a demand letter in one hand and a phone full of screenshots in the other was not here for the cleanup. Etta was in the kitchen. She had stayed overnight to help with the house, which meant she had stayed overnight because the family group chat had exploded and the photo of Shay's arm was in every conversation she was part of, and the overnight stay was not about helping, it was about huddling. Before either of you says anything, I am going to tell you 3 numbers. The first number is 1,400. The second number is 18,000. The third number is 18,400. And then I am going to tell you what each number means. Adler crossed her arms. Etta set her coffee on the counter. $1,400 is the emergency room bill for treating Shay's second-degree burn. The burn he got on a grill you asked him to operate, Adler, without telling me. Without providing gloves, without providing an apron, and without putting a single adult within 10 feet of a 16-year-old working a 400-degree surface. The $1,400 is yours. The demand letter is on your counter. I set the letter on the kitchen island next to a mason jar that still had lemonade residue in it. $18,000 is the amount I have sent to Mom's account over the last 3 years as a household contribution that Mom told me was for family expenses. It was not for family expenses. It was for your mortgage, Adler. $500 a month. Directly to your mortgage payment, routed through Mom's account so I would not see the destination. 3 years of my money keeping this house standing while you throw a party in it and burn my son at the grill. Adler's arms dropped. She looked at Etta. You told me the $500 was from the family emergency account. You told me it was savings being redistributed. It was family money. Tierney's money is family money. My money is not family money, Mom. My money is my money. It comes from a job you have never visited, in a kitchen you have never seen, at a hotel you have never acknowledged. And for 3 years it has been going to a mortgage on a house where my son was burned at a party I was not invited to plan, was not asked to cater, and was not told my son would be working at. Etta's mouth opened. The coffee was cold on the counter. The mason jar with the lemonade residue was cold on the island, and the morning that had started with a demand letter was getting colder with every number I named. $18,400 is the value of the catering I have provided for your events over the last 4 years. 14 events. Supplies, labor, transportation, calculated at hotel client rate. Every event I staffed for free because you are my sister, and I believed that family feeds family. But family does not feed family by bypassing the caterer and burning her son at the grill because the caterer was too busy working the job that pays for the mortgage that keeps the party house standing. I looked at Etta. You sat in a lawn chair 6 feet from a grill where your grandson was working with a burn on his arm. He told you the tray slipped. He showed you the blister. And you said, his other arm is fine. You sent him back to work at a 400-degree surface with an open wound because 30 guests needed chicken. My kitchen staff at the hotel would not operate a grill with a paper cut. You sent a 16-year-old back with a second-degree burn. And then you ate what he cooked. Etta's jaw worked. You are making this into something it is not. He wanted to help. He volunteered. He did not volunteer to be burned. He did not volunteer to be told to keep cooking after the burn. And he did not volunteer to be left without a glove or an apron at a grill you were sitting 6 feet from while eating the food he was cooking with an injured arm. Every child gets a burn in the kitchen. It builds character. Character, a second-degree thermal burn treated with silver sulfadiazine and sterile dressing, builds character. The CP's report I filed last night will determine whether it also builds a case. Etta's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. You filed a report? I filed a report for unsupervised operation of an open-flame cooking surface by a minor who sustained a thermal burn injury and was instructed to continue working by the supervising adult. The supervising adult is you, Mom. Your name is in the report. Etta set the cup down. Her hand was shaking. The cup rattled against the counter and the coffee inside moved in a small circle, and the circle was the only thing in the kitchen that was still moving because everything else had stopped. Adler's voice went thin. "You reported Mom to CPS? Mom was the adult present at the time of injury. Mom told a burned child to keep cooking. The report describes what happened. If what happened is not a problem, then the report will say so. If what happened is a problem, then the report will say that too. I did not decide the outcome. I documented the event. I looked at both of them. I have spent 4 years catering your events for free, $18,400 in labor and supplies. And when I could not do it this weekend, you called my son behind my back and put him at a grill with no equipment, no training, and no adult who cared whether his skin was burning. You used a 16-year-old as a replacement for a professional caterer because the caterer said she was busy. You did not hire someone. You did not postpone. You called a boy. And when the boy was hurt, your mother told him to keep working because the guests were hungry." Adler's chin dropped. Her eyes went to the demand letter on the kitchen island next to the lemonade jar, and the letter and the jar were the only things left from the party that had not been deleted or cleaned up or explained away. You posted 14 photos of the food. Not one photo of the boy who cooked it. His arm was burning in every frame you chose not to take. Etta stood at the counter with her hands on the granite, the posture of a woman whose coffee had gone cold and whose morning had gone colder and whose daughter had just told her that a government agency would be reviewing the sentence "his other arm is fine" in the context of a 16-year-old's blistered skin. This is the last $500. The last catered event. The last time my son sets foot in this kitchen or this backyard or any space where this family treats him as staff instead of family. The demand letter gives you 30 days. The CPS report gives you 10 business days. And the photo gives you the rest of your life, because the internet does not have a 30-day window and screenshots do not expire. I walked out. I did not close the door gently. I closed it the way a caterer closes a kitchen at the end of a shift, fully, firmly, and with the knowledge that everything inside has been accounted for, and everything outside is no longer her responsibility. The fallout was social and institutional, and it moved at the speed of a screenshot, which is the fastest speed in modern family dynamics, because a screenshot travels at the speed of a thumb, and a thumb does not ask permission. The neighborhood Facebook post generated 47 comments in 3 days. 11 of them were from guests who had been at the party and had not known the food was cooked by a minor with a burn on his arm. 6 of those 11 said they had seen the boy at the grill and assumed he was helping for fun and had not checked on him because a grandmother was sitting nearby and a grandmother's presence implied supervision. 3 said they had noticed something on his arm and assumed an adult was handling it. One woman said she had asked Etta about it, and Etta had said he is fine, he loves to cook, and the woman had accepted that answer because she was a guest, and guests accept the answers that let them keep eating. The comment thread became a public record of 30 adults who consumed food cooked by a burned teenager and did not intervene, and the record had Adler's address in the post header because the neighbor had tagged the location, and the location tag meant that anyone searching for the address, including potential buyers, real estate agents, or Adler's mortgage lender, would find a Facebook post about a child being burned at a barbecue in the backyard. Adler's co-workers at the dental practice read the screenshot Monday morning. The office manager, a woman named Dr. Teague, asked Adler about it during the morning huddle. Adler said it was a family misunderstanding. Dr. Teague did not ask again publicly, but the break room conversations for the next 2 weeks included the phrase, "Did you see that photo?" at a frequency that made the break room feel smaller every time Adler walked in. The photo was always the same photo, the arm and the food, and the break room that had been Adler's social center at work became the room where her hosting reputation went from "she throws the best parties" to "did you see what happened at her last one?" The CP's caseworker contacted Etta the following Thursday at her home. The caseworker, a woman named Miss Fuentes, sat at Etta's kitchen table and asked about the event, the grill, the burn, and the response. Etta said the boy had volunteered and the burn was minor. Miss Fuentes asked why the minor was not provided with protective equipment such as heat-resistant gloves or an apron. Etta did not have an answer beyond "we do not use those at home." Miss Fuentes asked why the minor was instructed to continue cooking after sustaining a thermal injury. Etta said his other arm was fine, he wanted to keep going. Miss Fuentes wrote the response on her form. The form was official. The sentence was Etta's. And the sentence that had been spoken in a backyard to a boy with a burn was now written on a government document in the handwriting of a caseworker who had heard enough answers in 11 years to know the difference between a grandmother who made a mistake and a grandmother who made a policy. The case remained open for review. The review would determine whether follow-up supervision was recommended, and the recommendation would go in a file that would exist longer than the burn on Shay's arm, and longer than the party photos Adler had deleted, and longer than the silence that Etta believed would solve everything if she sat in her kitchen long enough. The $500 monthly payment stopped. Adler's mortgage was due on the 1st of the month. The full payment was $1,840. Adler's income covered $1,340. The remaining $500 had been arriving from Tierney's account through Etta's routing for 36 months without interruption. And the remaining $500 was no longer arriving, and the first mortgage payment without it generated a late notice from the lender on day 16. And the late notice generated a phone call from the lender on day 22, and the phone call generated the question Adler had been avoiding since Saturday: who was paying the $500 and why did it stop, and what did a 16-year-old's burned arm have to do with a mortgage she thought she was paying alone? The demand letter for $1,400 sat on Adler's kitchen island for 9 days. On day 10, Adler texted me, "I cannot pay $1,400 right now." I texted back, "The letter gives you 30 days. Day 10 is not day 30. The clock is running." She did not text again. Tuesday evening, Ridgewater Hotel kitchen. Chef Navarro was prepping for a Wednesday corporate lunch when I walked in with Shay. The kitchen was in its evening state, stations wiped, prep containers labeled and dated, the exhaust hoods humming on low, and the stainless steel surfaces reflecting the overhead lights in long silver strips that made the kitchen look like a room built entirely of mirrors and intention. Navarro is 52 years old, has run hotel kitchens for 27 years, and has the calm authority of a man who has managed burns, cuts, slips, and one small grease fire without ever raising his voice above the level of a dinner reservation. He trained me. He promoted me. He signed the recommendation letter that got me my operations manager title. And when I told him Monday morning what had happened at the party, he set down his knife and looked at me across the prep station and said, "You manage banquets for 200 people. Your sister made your boy grill for 30 without a glove or a station setup. That is not family help. That is negligence with a side of potato salad." Shay had never been in the hotel kitchen. He had heard me talk about it for 9 years, had eaten food I brought home from test menus, had smelled the work on my uniform when I came through the door after a 12-hour shift. But he had never stood in the room where the work happened. He stood in the doorway now, with his gauze-wrapped arm and his eyes moving across the stations, the way a boy's eyes move across a room, that explains his mother in a language he has never heard her speak, the prep line with its cutting boards and knife racks, the SOT station with its 6 burners and copper pans, and the grill station with its exhaust hood and its rubber mats and its first aid kit mounted on the wall 3 feet from the burners. The grill station had 2 pairs of heat-resistant gloves hanging from hooks, a fire-resistant apron on a peg, tongs in 3 sizes arranged on a magnetic strip, and a laminated card on the wall that read, "Burn Protocol." 1. Remove from heat. 2. Cold water 60 seconds. 3. Burn gel. 4. Notify manager. 5. Document 5 steps. The backyard had 0. "This is how you cook for 30 people, Navarro said. He handed Shay a heat glove. Shay put it on his right hand. The glove covered his fingers to the wrist, and the wrist to the forearm, and the forearm to the elbow, and the coverage was the difference between a kitchen that respects the cook and a backyard that respects the food. Navarro handed him a pair of tongs, the same model as the ones I had taken from his hand at the party. Stainless steel. Hotel grade. Except these tongs were hanging above a station that had an exhaust hood and a fire extinguisher and a protocol binder and a burn kit, and the station was built for the person holding the tongs, not for the 30 people waiting for the food. Shay picked up the tongs with his gloved hand. He looked at the grill. He looked at the glove. He looked at the first aid kit on the wall. At the party there was nothing like this. At the party there should have been, Navarro said. The equipment does not make the cook, but it tells the cook that somebody cares whether he gets hurt. I watched from the kitchen office doorway. The tongs were in my son's hand again. The same grip, the same boy, different station, different equipment, different set of adults in the room. And the difference between the backyard and the kitchen was not the size of the grill, or the number of guests, or the quality of the chicken. The difference was that in this kitchen, the boy came before the food, and the burn kit was on the wall before the first flame was lit, and the woman who managed this kitchen had spent her career making sure that the people who cooked were protected first and productive second. Shay turned the tongs in his hand. The gauze on his left arm was visible below the heat glove's edge. White against the steel, the burn and the protection side by side, the way the photo had shown the burn and the food side by side, except this time the side by side story was different. This time the story said, the boy is equipped, the boy is safe, the boy is in a kitchen that was built for him, not a backyard that was built for the guests. The tongs clicked once. The sound echoed off the stainless steel, surfaces the way it echoes in professional kitchens, clean and metallic and purposeful. Shay set the tongs back on the magnetic strip. He looked at me in the doorway. "Can I learn to do this for real?" "You can learn to do this for real." Navarro looked at me. I looked at my son. The kitchen was quiet except for the exhaust hood humming and the prep timer beeping on the line and the steady breathing of a boy who had been burned at a family barbecue and was now standing in a professional kitchen where the first rule on the wall was the rule that his grandmother had broken: treat the cook before you serve the guest. Welcome back to Betrayal Unfolded. If this story reminded you that the person who takes the tongs from a burned child's hand is the person who should have been holding them all along, share it tonight. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and tell me, has anyone ever treated your child as staff instead of family? I will see you in the next one.